Hey everybody, welcome to our final second round series preview here at the Hockey Writers YouTube channel. And today we're going to be talking about the Buffalo Sabres and Montreal Canadiens, not the Minnesota Wild. Joined with Jacob Strozyk and Ryan Szporer. How you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
Not too bad,
Doing pretty
Jacob.
good. I can't
Good.
complain.
This is a very strange series to be looking at, considering the state of the Atlantic Division over the last number of years. If you told me that these two teams, honestly, I wouldn't be that surprised. But just how it got here so fast, and that we're in a second round between these two teams. Of course, the Sabres snapping an incredibly long playoff drought. Finally here, they have the team, they have the good players. They just haven't been able to put it together until now. The Montreal Canadiens, who are still very much so on the uprising, now hitting the second round in 2026. So, Jacob, I'll start with you. Talk me through the first round matchup against the Boston Bruins. What did you take away from that? How did the Sabres fare out?
I mean, yeah, it was mostly what we kind of expected. It was the hard hitting, physical, bang on bodies type rivalry kind of feel matchup. You knew from the get go, based off of all the smack talk that was kind of going on, that things were going to get heated, things were going to get chippy, things were going to get a little physical, and they were pretty much throughout. But at the end of the day, Buffalo stuck to what their game really was in the games that they ended up winning, which was it's all about the speed, it's all about the finesse, it's all about driving themselves as much as they can forward, even though they might not be able to out physical things, they can outspeed most things, but they still have the capacity to keep up with the Bruins physically enough to kind of play that game. So it was an exciting series, to say the least, even though it did get a little off kilter here and there as far as some of the emotions go, and some of the controversies might go with some of the um, individual things that happened there. But all in all, it was fun, and it came out in the exact way that just about all of us were expecting, at least from a Sabre fan perspective, that it was just an absolute grind and it was an absolute war, but they still came out on top because they believed that they were better, and they ended up doing that.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the like just the matchup, like Charlie McAvoy, the slash at the end. The whole series was kind of building up to that point. Obviously, he has an in-person hearing, and it wasn't just that play isolated. Like the
No.
whole series was about to hit that boiling point, and for the sake of everybody's health, it's almost a good thing it ended in 6. So, like, who knows how Game 7 would have went? Usually, teams kind of hunker down and play more clean and whatnot, but I don't know with that one. I think that would have been a bloodbath of a Game 7. Speaking of Game 7, Ryan, we just got to see the why am I stuck on Minnesota? The Montreal Canadiens and the Tampa Bay Lightning have one heck of a Game 7. I mean, the Canadiens were out of it for all but 2 shots, 2 of their 9 total shots. Those 2 shots were more than enough. They've closed out the Tampa Bay Lightning in 7 games. It was a crazy game, crazy performance from Jacob Billington. What do you take away from the whole series?
My takeaway is the Canadiens are lucky and not. Like, it's a very weird. I think we discussed heading into this recording that they won the game that they didn't deserve to win, being Game 7, and they lost the game that they probably deserved to win in Game 6. And had they won that game in overtime, we wouldn't even be having this discussion about Game 7. And truth be told, the worst thing that the Sabres can do is look to Game 7 as what they'll end up facing, because for all intents and purposes, the Canadiens held the edge in that series over the Lightning. It's just everyone's talking about the Canadiens going shotless over for an entire playoff period for the first time in their franchise history, which is something worth talking about. And of course, them being the only team with fewer than 10 shots to win a playoff game in NHL history. Again, something we're talking about. But at the end of the day, the Canadiens are better than their performance in Game 7 would indicate. And only a few, they were tied in the standings 106 with the Tampa Bay Lightning, and only a few points separated them from the Sabres. The season series was tied between these two teams. They are very evenly matched, make no mistake. And I've had trouble picking who will come out on top in this series.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tight. But both teams kind of showed two different styles of play. Montreal showed they can do it even when they're not performing at their peak. But the Sabres also saw that they can kind of match anybody's play. The way that the Boston Bruins were playing, that's not what we've seen out of the Buffalo Sabres in any of the regular season games. Pretty much for the whole 14 years they missed the playoffs, they haven't played with that kind of the bite that they did in that Game 6 and throughout most of the series, but especially in Game 6. So I think both teams have their advantages in this series. So I'll stick with you on this, Ryan. What are some storylines that you're going to be looking for from the Montreal Canadiens heading into the second round series?
The top line heading into that series against the Lightning, Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, and Uri Slafkovsky combined for a grand total of 1 point at even strength. So that will need to change against the Sabres. That isn't to say that they didn't perform, because obviously Uri Slafkovsky had that power play hat trick in Game 1. He still didn't score a point the rest of the way. And Cole Caulfield did score a power play goal, but again, no even strength points. And Nick Suzuki did score that key goal in Game 7, albeit off a shot that probably didn't deserve to even go on net, which again plays into that narrative of, oh my God, how the hell did they win that game? But they at the end of the day, Suzuki scored 101 points. First time a Canadiens player has scored that many points since 1986. Mats Naslund being the last one. Cole Caulfield scored 51 goals for the first time. The first time the Canadiens have a player who reached 50 since 1990. Stéphane Richer. They have the capability of putting up points. And I think most would credit Anthony Cirelli and John Cooper's coaching for being able to contain that top line, which was eventually split up by Martin Saint-Louis. But I think that's the predominant storyline heading into the series. Like, they need to be able to match the Sabres offense, especially that top line, that top Tage Thompson line. Will they be up to it?
Yeah, I mean, 5v5 or even strength production is going to be huge for that top line. I mean, they did produce. Nick Suzuki still had a point per game. Cole Caulfield still had, I think, 4 points in 7 games, something like that. So, like, they were still getting some of the points. But again, you'd like to see more even strength production from them. It's going to be hard to rely on just your stars just producing on the power play. And you need some even strength scoring. What about you, Jacob? What are some storylines you're going to be following heading into the Buffalo Sabres second round matchup?
I mean, there's a few, honestly. The first one is more of a recent development. Nobody was really expecting him to come back, and I know a lot of people probably wouldn't be too excited about a fourth line player jumping back into the lineup, but the return of Sam Carrick is honestly a big boost to this team, because they have such a problem winning faceoffs and getting that first possession. And they've had it all season long. They were just dead last in the faceoff dot all year. So having someone to put out on the ice in those types of situations where you really need that faceoff win, having him back will be a big addition to their roster compared to what they had to deal with in Boston, where they were at sub 45% on the dot, and that was just painful to watch most nights. So I think he is, while not a huge storyline, still an important one to follow and see where he goes. The second one would be Alex Lyon. Is he starting still? And if he does start, most likely he will, but if he does start, is he still putting up those ridiculous what the hell kinds of numbers that he was putting up in round one. Is it realistic to assume he's going to do that? No, but is it possible? If the defense holds up, yeah, they absolutely can. But it's really, really interesting to see that it only took one mess up by Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen to jump Lyon into it, and it was that much of a boost to the team to have him in the crease and backstopping them to each win after the fact, and just how well he played, how composed he was. It was really kind of jaw-dropping to just witness that every single night. So I think the play of Lyon, and asking the question of if he falters just a little bit, will Lindy Ruff go back to Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen? That question is still kind of there. I don't think he will, but I think there's always that chance just based off of the fact there was a goalie rotation all season long. The third one, and I still hate to say it, but it's the power play. For the love of God, score a power play goal. I think they got one, and they had one all throughout the month of April. So it was it's just an abomination that they cannot put anything in with the man advantage, and it's going to absolutely kill them against a team like the Canadiens, who can score and who can attack them in a similar pace and type of play that the Sabres are used to playing. So if they're not able to match that with some power play goals, I think it's going to be a real tight, tough struggle for them to put some pucks in the net sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, at least they have the luxury of even strength production. Like, they've been scoring, they have been, but against a team like the Canadiens, I don't think you can just rely on that. I know when we were just talking about the Canadiens and how you can't just rely on your power play, you need a mix of both. And right now we kind of have a tale of two teams. One can score on the power play, the other one can't. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of how special teams come into this. I'll stick with you and the Sabres here. Who are you going to be keeping an eye on? So you mentioned Sam Carrick. You mentioned the goaltending. Who else is going to be kind of at the forefront of your mind?
I'm going to stick with kind of the hot trend players from the previous series. And at the top of my list is Zach Benson. Is he still going to be that annoying little pest that everybody has kind of grown to love and hate all at the same time, depending on which side of the ice you're on? And is he going to continue to push that envelope even more in a series like this, where he might be more useful in a scoring type role, or is he going to still try and wear everybody down if things aren't being as physical, and he's going to be that physical, irritating presence? I think he's one of the more versatile forwards that they have and more volatile. So I think it'll be fun to watch what he does throughout that series. And the second one, I think, would be Alex Tuch. He was all over the ice. Every single shift, every single play. He's moving at full speed. He's throwing his body at anything that moves. He was making plays, scoring goals, you name it. And he was just the most complete everything player that the Sabres had every single night. So he's got all the eyes on him now. Is he still going to push that envelope? And is he still going to hold that level of excellence and still be that star caliber player? Or is he going to get shut down because there's more focus on him? I think it'll be interesting to see which will end up happening, because when there's two teams that play in a similar style and are fairly evenly matched in the way that they play, those types of players tend to get shut down, and it's more of the middle bottom to bottom six that start getting more involved in the scoring as opposed to the primary scorers.
Yeah, and I like that you bring up Alex Tuch, because I'm going to take this opportunity to ask you, how are you feeling about an extension? What do you think about the offseason? What's coming?
I mean, I've seen enough throughout the course of the year to be pretty confident that he'll sign the extension. I don't know that it'll be the, $12 million at 8 years type extension, but I'm confident that he'll find an agreement that works both for him and for the team so that they can still keep bringing in more people or signing who they have and keeping the core of the group, but still having enough of a raise for him that it makes sense that he stayed and that he took the money to be here. So I'm about 98% confident that he'll take one to be here.
Yeah, I mean, everything looks like it should. Like, there shouldn't be any problems getting this deal done, but it just hasn't been done yet, and that's the only reason that, like, I'm even questioning it. But you could tell me that he extended 3 months ago, and I would believe you because, like, obviously, like, he's gonna until he doesn't. So, Ryan, we'll move over to you. You already talked about the top line a little bit. Who are some other players that you're going to be keeping an eye on for this series?
First, top of mind is Ivan Demidov. For a simple reason, he was limited to a single assist against Lightning, and he's just much more dynamic than that. I think there's no necessarily any pressure from the fan base for him to find his scoring touch, in the sense that he's still just a rookie who led all rookies in scoring. The honeymoon phase is still in full force. But for the Canadiens to move on, not only does that top line need to get going at even strength, Demidov needs to be able to find the back of the net, or become more or make more plays. Second, Noah Dobson. He just came back at the end of the Lightning series for Game 7 after missing 2 weeks. I think that he helped stabilize the defense, and the Canadiens are definitely in a much better position to compete with the Sabres with him healthy. It just unfortunate coincidence that in his return the Canadiens shot the bed as much as they did, but they still came out with a win.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed to me I think he's definitely going to have to start producing a little more. But you're right, there's not that insane pressure. Like, I just came off of watching the Senators' first round series, and the amount of pressure from the fans and the media on Tkachuk and Stützle, that's not there for a guy like Demidov. Not yet, at least. If this is a trend, it's not going to be a good one. But yeah, I think him and both Dobson. Dobson is a fantastic defenseman. I don't imagine he has much of a problem coming back. Elliot Friedman said on the 32 Thoughts podcast that he probably could have went for Game 6, but they liked the way that they played and they didn't want to disrupt anything. So it's not that he was necessarily a healthy scratch, but rather than pushing it, they didn't want to put him into Game 6 right away. So they threw him into Game 7. He's going to be fine, I think. I think he's like fully healthy, which is kind of lucky considering it could have been much worse. He could still be another 3 weeks away. So yeah, two big names to keep an eye on for the Canadiens. But what's going to be the biggest X factor for them? Is it going to be their special teams? Is it going to be getting that even strength scoring? Is it going to be Jacob Billington continuing his unbelievable play? What's going to be some of the biggest X factors for you?
I'll go with Dobeš just because he was clearly the biggest reason that the Canadiens moved on. I'm not saying that. I just wrote a piece actually. It was published today about comparisons to Jaroslav Halak in 2010, when Halak obviously stood on his head to lead the Canadiens to a first-round series victory over the Washington Capitals, who had just won the President's Trophy, and then the Pittsburgh Penguins in round 2, who had won the Stanley Cup the year before. Dobeš isn't Jaroslav Halak 2.0. Halak played out of his mind over the course of a single month. Dobeš has been steady, and he, as much as the Canadiens were outshot in Game 7, he only faced 29 shots, and the Canadiens did a generally good job of keeping the shots to the outside and ensuring that he saw everything. So he wasn't like God's gift to goaltending in that game. He did what he needed to do, and he was impressive in so doing, especially as a rookie in a Game 7 situation. So that having been said, he definitely needs to stay the course against the Sabres. Because, the Canadiens obviously got by the Lightning by the skin of their teeth. Each game was decided by a single goal. If he doesn't play like he did, the Canadiens aren't here right now. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I think it's so impressive that a young goalie like him, a rookie goalie, is able to stay so calm in a game 7. But part of that is because after the game, he did a interview with Sportsnet's Kyle Bukauskas, and he was saying he treats every game as if it's a game 7. Every single game that he plays is a game 7 in his mind. He needs to win every single one, and that can put a lot of pressure on a guy. That could eat away at him a little bit, but for him, it's clearly helping him stay calm. And how much of that is an exaggeration? Like, I don't think he sits there in his stall and says, "This is game 7. We need to win." Like, it's more subtle than that. But
can I elaborate on that?
Yeah, exactly. So
I'm just saying that I think that was in reference to the fact that the Canucks kept going back and back and back to the Samuel Montembeault well, despite the fact that Dobeš was clear-cut, more reliable goalie over the course of the season, until finally the Canadiens just didn't have another choice but to go with Dobeš, starting effectively at around the trade deadline. And from that point on, Dobeš was lights out. And I can, from his game 7, every game is a game 7 comment, I think was in reference to the fact that he had to perform each game he was put in, because the Canadiens were looking for excuses to go back to Montembeault. I don't think that's the case anymore based on what we've seen so far. Now it's more so a case of what do they do with Jacob Fowler, and I assume they're going to keep them both for the time being. But Dobeš has established himself as a legitimate number 1 in this league.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's such a good problem to have, a rookie doing so well in a fight where the odds were stacked against him. Like you said, they were looking for every reason to go with Montembeault, even though it wasn't working. That he was their go-to, and Dobeš just completely stole that job. And yeah, he did play as if his season depended on it, because you're right, it did at times. Yeah, I think he's without a doubt one of the biggest X factors. Jacob, I'll hop over to you. Are you also going to go with goaltending? Is it going to be Alex Lyon or Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen? Or is it going to be Zach Benson again? Or is it going to be some of the stars producing? What are you thinking?
I think it's going to be this kind of conglomeration of guys, and I kind of refer to them as like the tempo or the pacing guys. So Benson is on that list. A player like Josh Doan, Alex Tuck, Beck Malenstein, Bowen Byram. You can even technically add Dolly into that, but it's those guys that transition up the ice, transition back. They set the tempo, they set the pace, and they move the play back and forth constantly. Those are the guys that either are regularly having the puck on their stick or are always doing something when they don't have the puck on their stick. So those are the kinds of guys that I think are going to be the biggest difference makers in a series like this, because while everybody's out watching for what's Thompson doing, what's Caulfield doing, what are all of these high-skilled players doing, who are we watching for, I think it's those tempo-based guys that maybe you're not watching all the time that are going to have their opportunities to do just a little bit more each time, as they either fly under the radar or they just have the opportunity to make more of an impact because the focus might be more on the high-flying scorers of this series, just because of how much firepower there is on both sides. So I think the X factor will be in how well can those types of players push that pace, how well can they possess the puck, and how well can they cause the kinds of turnovers that they've been great at doing all season long to disrupt the flow of the Canadiens players as a whole. And I think that'll be easily the most important thing for them, because when you're trying to beat a team, and I've said this before, when you're trying to beat a team that plays almost just like you have to try and beat yourself, and you're also giving them the formula on how to beat you. So you have to readjust and reanalyze everything. So having those kinds of players that can always shift and move and adjust and change how they play, I think is going to be a big, important X factor for them.
Yeah, and I think another part I'll throw in there is kind of staying healthy as well. Like Josh Norris missed some time, and then Noah Ostlund, he looked fantastic while he was playing. Now he's out for the whole second round, I do believe. Awful news, especially for a young guy like him and a young team like this, at least experience-wise. And then Josh Norris, he's a guy I'll always cheer for. I hope he can stay in the lineup. He has the potential to be such a dangerous weapon, but he just can't stay on the ice. So those are kind of two X factors, one X factor, two players that I would include there as well. So what are they going to have to do, the Buffalo Sabres? What are they going to have to do to beat the Montreal Canadiens here?
Really, it's going to have to be lock down their own zone more than anything and still be able to do what they've done very well all year, which is after you're done defending, push the play up the ice and turn that defense into offense. But they need to still focus on that. Defend your ice well first. Because if you give up too much space, if you give up too much momentum, or if you give up too much time in your own zone and allow the Canadiens to build that pressure, they're just going to run all over you and just circle the wagon until every single one of your guys is just completely dead tired. So it's about containment. It's about keeping that defensive side of the puck as locked down and as rounded and solidified as you can possibly do it, and then pushing that play back up ice and shoving what speed you have left back in their face and hoping that you can catch them off guard enough to put the puck in the net before they can. You need to take early leads, you need to put pressure on them, and still make sure that everything in your own end is defended first.
Okay, and heading over to you, Ryan, what are the Montreal Canadiens going to have to do to beat the Buffalo Sabres?
Outscore them in 4 games. I don't have nearly as comprehensive a response. I will say that I think, as stupid as it sounds, I think this series hinges on game 1. If the Canadiens can take one, like that first game, then obviously the pressure will be on the Sabres, and the Canadiens really just need to stick to their game plan, because I think that it speaks for itself. They have the strength and the depth to go toe to toe with the Sabres, but I think that they just need to come roaring out of the gate, because it's a slippery slope. If you lose that first one, yeah, you're still in it, but I think the Sabres are that good of a team that they're just going to keep going. I think I started off by this whole discussion by saying that I forgot where I was going with this, but let me just move on quickly. I think that the Canadiens and Sabres, they're 2 of the youngest teams to start the season. The Canadiens were the youngest team. Sabres were the next youngest team. So this is kind of like a referendum on which team is further along in their rebuild. And for all intents and purposes, the Canadiens have accomplished all their goals heading into the season. They've improved every which way on how they fared last season. And I think that whatever they do from this point on is gravy. As another rebuilding team, the Sabres, I think that they can't get, for them to win, they can't have the mindset, a similar mindset where like they're just happy to be here. And I don't think they are, but they can't fall into that trap. And yeah, we'll just see what happens.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good series no matter what way it goes. Ryan, you alluded at the start. You said you don't know it, like you'd had such a hard time picking which way this series is going to go. Yeah, it's going to be impossible. And for the rest of the Atlantic Division, especially Ottawa Senators and Detroit Red Wings fans, it's not fun because all 4 teams were in very similar spots a few years ago. Now these 2 are in the second round, and one's heading to the conference final, and the other ones, I mean, Detroit still hasn't made the playoffs. Ottawa hasn't gotten past the first round. These 2 teams have clearly surpassed them. So with that being said, Ryan, who's going to be the MVP of the series? Who do you think?
I'll say Thompson.
Ooh, Tage Thompson going with the enemy. Jacob, what are you thinking?
He stole my bit, and he went with somebody on the other team, and I think he has a point in thinking that the other team scorer is going to have it, and I was going to say Caulfield because he has this knack for just scoring a whole bunch of goals against us. So I really think that no matter how the series will end up turning out, I think the kid's just going to throw up like 7 to 8 goals in the series, and it's going to scare the living hell out of me.
Yeah, it's going to be. I mean, Tage Thompson also did put up some points. He had 7 points in 6 games. He only had the 2 goals, though. You kind of hope for a bit more goal scoring out of a guy like him. I'm more than made up for it. I'm not criticizing him at all. But whichever one of Tage Thompson and Cole Caulfield wake up and do start scoring, especially even strength, they could dictate the entire series. So, like, I completely agree with both of your picks. I am going to go with Jacob Billington, though. He's been so much fun to watch, and I think that he's going to completely shut down the Sabres. And we even saw in what it was 29 shots against in Game 7. He just looked so good on so many of them, and key saves too. So he's going to be my MVP prediction. But let's move on to our series prediction. Jacob, which team is going to win and in how many games?
I'm going to stick to a similar prediction as my first round. I'm going to go Buffalo in 6. I think it's going to be a bit of a split for the first 4 games. I don't think it's going to be that 3-1 split like it was. I think it's going to be kind of like I was expecting again, where they split the home and home, and then things will kind of round out towards the end for Buffalo once they've figured out, here's how we defend, here's how we attack. All right, we've got this game. All right, boys, let's push it to the end.
Okay, Ryan, who are you taking?
Sabres in 7. I just think that it's funny because heading into the playoffs, I think the Canadiens, not that they would ever admit this, but I think they, of all like the possible first round opponents, I think they're probably hoping for the Bruins just because of they match up so well against them historically and presently, and the rivalry factor. But the less and less that became a possibility with them jockeying with the Lightning for second and third place in the division. Yeah, I think they would have preferred to face the Sabres because of their similar styles. And I think that I honestly felt like the Sabres presented the best opportunity for the Canadiens to move on between them and the Lightning. And now that the Canadiens have beaten the Lightning in 7 games, because of the grueling nature of that first round series, I just don't see the Canadiens being able to pull this one out, unfortunately, even though I think that on paper they could very much come out on top. Just circumstances being what they are, I think that the Sabres have the edge.
And I think a lot of people underestimate the Sabres just because it's their first time here. Like, they have an unbelievable team. They have so many good players. And I think I said this at the start of the video. It's just a matter of putting it together, and they haven't been able to do that. I mean, goaltending is still quite a question, but it's just as much of a question in Montreal right now, so that could go either way. And not that there's any question about Montreal's goaltending, but it's a rookie. You never know what's going to happen with a rookie, especially the later you get in the playoffs. And the same with Alex Lyon. He's been playing great. How long does that last? Who knows? It's such an impossible series to predict. I'm going 7 games. I think I'm going to make it a clean sweep and go with the Sabres as well. But like it's going to be such a close series. Although I said that about Ottawa, Carolina. So don't take my word for it. Jacob, Ryan, thank you for joining me on this episode for the series preview. If y'all made it this far, leave a comment. Let us know your series MVP and let us know your prediction. Make sure to check out Jacob and Ryan's content on thehockeywriters.com and all the other series previews here on the Hockey Writers YouTube channel. See you next time.